How to apply masking fluid. Let's say you have a nice rendered illustration and you would like to add a background to it, but the object or the foreground has too many details, so when you try to get those smooth strokes with your marker or your brush, you end up with patchy areas instead. I experimented with masking fluid a few times and now I'll show you how I use it in order to get smooth backgrounds. This is the setup. You need some masking fluid, of course. I used Winsor & Newton colorless art masking fluid. I also used a spatula with a thin and a thick end. I made my own out of disposable chopsticks that I carved with a utility knife to get flat ends. Masking. With a spatula, start covering all the small, pointy and narrow extensions of your foreground. Take your time, as this is the most important step of the process. Notice that I leave some of the outline exposed. Since it's black, it doesn't really matter if it gets painted over later. You can always retouch the outline if necessary. Change to a thicker spatula when you're done finished masking the more intricate parts, and continue covering the larger, simpler portions of your drawing. You still need to be careful on the edges, but you will be done with the rest in no time. When you think you're done masking, find a good light source and tilt your drawing so that the brightness of the mask reveals any little spots you missed. Painting. This is the fun part. When your mask is dry, use your favorite marker or watercolor and freely paint your background any color you want, without worrying about going over your foreground. Your drawing is now protected, and now you can get those continuous strokes across the page. Let's take it one step further and use a small brush to splatter some dark blue paint, taking full advantage of our mask. We let it dry again and we're ready for the unmasking. Some people use an eraser for this. I prefer to peel the mask off in one piece. For that, I use my utility knife to help me get started. I use it to lift the small corner of the mask and then I'm ready to continue by hand. Slowly remove the mask. If it breaks, just start peeling it again. If you were patient and careful during the previous steps, this gets to be the most satisfying part. We now retouch the outline one more time. In this case, I'm using a black brush pen. And there you have it, our finished piece using masking fluid. If you're trying this for the first time, let me give you some tips. Use plenty of masking fluid. Apply a thick layer to ensure the protection of your drawing. If you don't, the paint will bleed into the paper beneath, affecting the final result. This happened to me, and despite my efforts, I couldn't fix it. Similarly, don't use too much water. If your drawing gets too wet, it might end up sticking to the mask when you peel it off. This happened to me a couple of times, even when I was aware of it. You can prevent this from happening if you use a thick paper like Bristol, or spray your paper using the same fixative used to prevent smudging. If you can, don't paint your foreground until the very end, especially if your background is meant to be a lighter color. If something goes wrong, there's a good chance you can fix it later when painting your foreground. I hope you find this video useful. Practice this technique before applying it to an important illustration of yours, and let me know how it works for you. Thanks for watching.